interesting disease. So GBS is also known as Guillain-Barré syndrome, and according to Mayo, it's a condition in which the body's immune system attacks its nerves. And usually, um, according to the NHS, it affects your arms and your legs first before it hits the rest of the body. And when it affects the arms and legs, you're going to get things like numbness, tingling, having trouble walking, picking things up. You can't really run as well. You can't really get upstairs, things like that. And then 2 to 4 weeks later, it's going to progress to other parts of the body and get worse and worse and worse. If it gets to a point where it gets to your lungs, they could become the respiratory system itself could basically become paralyzed and you're put on a ventilator until either you can stop the infection, the um, disease process, or you lose your life. Essentially, is the best way to put it because I think die is kind of a bad way. Um, and usually, like you don't know what's happening. With my dad, at least, he didn't know what was that he even had anything until he tried to get up and just collapsed on the floor. Because that happens sometimes. Because sometimes instead of it being like a gradual increase, it just comes all at once, and you have to get rushed to the hospital because it's you never know. And there's a lot of different causes. According to the CDC, there's something called Campylobacter infection, which can cause your body, like after it's done, like the immune system attacking to get that out of your system, it just continues attacking and it causes the GBS. There's things like diarrhea or respiratory illness because your body's like attacking that again and again. It finishes it and there's still so much happening. A viral infection. Maybe the viral infection is really, really bad until the immune system, excuse me, is doing all it can to fight it and get rid of it. And in turn, it fights too hard, and then it's still fighting after the viral infection is gone, and it starts attacking itself because it thinks that itself, like the brain, the nerves, the body, is an enemy rather than like something you need to survive. And the other one, this is very rare, specifically in the U.S. It could be more common in other countries, but specifically here in the United States, vaccines. Vaccines, as most people know, are usually RNA or mRNA, just viruses. They're deactivated that are like injected into your system, and it's supposed to they help the immune system. So maybe sometimes the body will see them as like instead of as like a helpful thing, as like an enemy, and then it'll start fighting itself as it becomes part of the immune system. Um, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is the phases of the disease. So the first part is the progressive period, which is basically where the disease process starts and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Symptoms are being shown, more parts of the body are being, affected by it, and then it gets to plateau period. The plateau period fully depends on the type of, or not the type of, the severity of the GBS and what parts of the body the GBS are affecting. And that plateau period is also where you get the medications you have. And those medications, depending on which one you get, they do different things. If you have IVIG, which is the one that most people end up using, it's an infusion of healthy people's proteins into your body to hopefully stop the immune system attack and preserve your nerves. Because what happens, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, is demyelinization, which is where the outer covering of the nerves that like helps like that protects them and makes it so you can feel things. And there's not only like the word numbness, tingling, numbness, wow, and tingling. It'll basically take that apart until just the nerve is just exposed, and that causes them to break down. And that's when you see neuropathy, like my dad has, which is where you can't really feel your feet, can't feel temperature, can't feel while you're walking. If you get injured, anything like that, it can happen basically anywhere in your body. Um, so that's where the IVG comes in because that one can be done basically lifelong if the effects are lifelong or they're helping you from like getting neuropathy or something, or there's at the time you had to have the disease until the doctors deem that you are no longer being affected and they can get you off the IVIG. And the other medication you have is the plasma exchange or the PE. It's also called plasmapheresis, and what they do is to get the liquid part of your blood from your body, aka the plasma. They filter and try to get rid of all the proteins that are bad, and they put it back in your body. It hopes that your body will stop attacking itself, and it'll pause the demyelinization process, so that way, you can still feel things and everything works. And that's from the Cleveland Clinic. I looked on their website for some really good information on medications. Actually, like every website, look at a GBS because it's not a super common disease actually. And it's a mix of a neurologic condition and a autoimmune disorder, and also kind of a blood disease because comes from the blood. And then we have the recovery phase. The recovery phase is where your nerves stop being attacked. So You're able to move. That's where you learn to walk again, use your hands again. They try to wean you off the ventilator, make it so that way you can breathe without assistance. You get sent to a rehab facility usually by this point, and or if you were lucky, you get the plateau period where it completely resolves, and your recovery phase, you're just sent home. For my dad's case, he was sent to a rehab center, and for another lady that my dad is friends with, she still goes to rehab center because she's on basically for life at this point the IVIG because she was developing neuropathy in the way that she was able to at least either slow down the progression or I guess almost stop it was do this, and then which means I have to the IVIG so I have to monitor her a little bit. So she still goes to a rehab center to be monitored and make sure that everything is functioning. And then another part of the recovery phase is you look for the long lasting effects to see if you need to do medications, anything like that. There is one kind of long lasting effect that can come from the GBS. It's not like a super common one, but it's one my dad has. It's called hydroencephalopathy. It's where because of the demyelinization, it caused excess fluid on the brain. And that one, it's not super life threatening. It messes more with your balance than the neuropathy from the GBS already does. So, um, you know, they look for things like that. They look to see if you can still walk, if you can figure out if you're strong enough to get that ventilator out, things like that. Um, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but neuropathy, what that is, it's basically where you can't feel like whatever your nerves are like shot. Essentially, you can't feel temperature, pain, infection. No, you can't feel anything. So that's where they you tell patients to wear socks. They do like regular like care of their feet, like looking at them, make sure there's no infections, no nothing. They don't do a lot of nail clipping or they like when they do they're extra careful because they can't feel if they like break skin or something. So that's a little side note. But yeah. And